No big deal. I'm just kind of hanging out, guys, tonight. Just editing some videos. If anybody's on and they want to,
One fun
what's up?
podcast. He has
What's
entered the
happening?
chat. Welcome
What's
to
going
you
on?
and Christina.
Nice. I just got done doing my podcast, so I'm doing some editing tonight.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Sorry. I didn't have that intro like prepared. I just started like randomly making words.
No
So,
worries.
yeah.
Nice.
How's
What
it
are you up
going?
to? I'm good. I'm just hanging out on a Saturday night. Just had some music cranking. I was in the process of editing my video and uploading it to YouTube, so just hanging out.
Nice. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Yes, Drew. Hold on. Chat. We just had a deep moment in the chat. So,
All right.
um, yeah, Drew, big facts. So I hope he's okay as well. And I would love for all of us to make sure that we follow him and to make sure that when we see him go live, we go in there and we offer words of encouragement and breathe life into him so that he doesn't feel like he has to be so dependent on that to deal with whatever he's going through. Got it? Cool. Check. All right. Back to
Nice.
you. One
Yeah.
fun guy
Who did you?
podcast.
Who did you? Who did you hop into? I'll follow him. Does he go live?
He does. I'll send it to
Yeah,
you.
send me your stuff.
I'll send it to you in a
Awesome.
DM. I'll
Yeah.
send it to you in a DM
Perfect.
because I don't want to tell his, I don't want to tell his business.
No,
So,
no worries. I got you.
but yeah, we had somebody from his team came and dropped some info in our little chat, and we were like, oh, all right, okay, let's see what we can do about
Fair
helping
enough.
a brother out.
Nice. I like it.
I'm all about like intentional quality community that
Yeah.
actually shows up. It's not all just talk.
Yeah. So I am too. Actually, my wife was doing a battle with a guy who was a Marine, and she was kind of telling him about me and what I do, and he was like, "I'd love to be on his show." And so we kind of hooked up today. I sent him a message, so we're gonna get that ball rolling too. So hopefully in the next few weeks he'll be on.
I love that.
Yeah, he does a
Love
bunch of
that.
charity stuff too, so it's awesome. So she was like, "You should get him on." I'm like, "No problem, done."
Heck yeah. That's so much fun. I think it's so cool. Like, that's one of the things I love about podcasts is just getting that mind meld, like you've got your host and your guest, and the two of you get to kind of get to know each other.
Yeah,
And you just get, especially when you have a host or an interviewer who really is thoughtful about their work and about
yeah.
the people that they're,
So
yeah.
that's what I love, right? So I have people on my podcast that are positive, that they're passionate about something. And so that's what I like to do is promote their positivity.
Yeah.
So, that's why, and again, with you, example, like I just wanted to basically like
Oh,
touch
man.
base with you because I don't put people on the spot on my podcast. Like I don't ask them questions that they feel uncomfortable answering. I don't make them feel weird. I don't ask bizarre stuff. I stay away from political stuff. I stay away from religious stuff, right? We talk about you and what's going on in your life and what you want to promote. So whether it be art or a project or a business or whatever you want to do, that's what we focus on is all the positive stuff going on in your life. And so I do my best to share that to the world. So whatever you have going on, that's what we talk about. So we talk about your passions, your interests, your aspirations, your whatever you want to do. So it's all about my guests, but it's
Cool.
all about the stuff that's going on in their life. Like I don't spin it like I have people on and then I don't, blindside them with a weird question or something. It's a conversation style. So it
Like a
flows.
like hit them with the drama,
Right. And so all my stuff is on YouTube. I encourage everybody to watch my stuff. That way you get a feel for it. So you know that I will not railroad anybody when you come on my podcast. Like, I'm not the Howard Stern of the podcasting world, right?
Right,
Right.
exactly.
So I promote positivity. I promote everything that people are excited to do in their life or what they're excited about. Or if they have a project or a passion thing they're going on, or if they're involved in a charity and they want to promote that, whatever it may be, that's what we talk about. So
I like it. Hi, Lucifer. Thanks for being here. Hey, do you want to do a battle while we're just
yeah, why not?
getting to know each other?
Yeah, that's fine. So
And yeah, I know I had to dip on our plan to talk
yeah, no worries.
yesterday,
Yeah.
but this coming week I should have some time, probably after Wednesday. I'll
Cool.
I'll know more. So
And
we
literally, I
might
need
do
about
this.
like 10 minutes of your time. Like I said, we'll just talk about your inspirations, what you want to talk about, because it's all about you. when you're a guest on my podcast, my focus is on my guests and what they have going on and whatever they want to talk about in their life. So, I have some people that'll come on and say, hey, I just want to clear the air about, some stuff that I'm going through. Can I use I'm like, sure. So we'll talk about like, if anybody has, anything going on that way and they want to use my platform to do that, we're more than welcome. And again, it's a judgment-free zone. So we talk about anything from, mental health issues to, what someone's got going on. If they're, kind of, in a certain stage of their life and they're trying to figure it out, like we navigate it and we talk about it. And at the end, it's always built on positivity and where you're going and to how to get there. Right. So we never
Hey,
end the show
it's
on a
Giving
bad note.
Life Coach, the
Right.
podcast.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm
So yeah,
100%.
so there's nothing negative. Now, every once in a while, we you have to talk about some bad stuff to get to the good stuff, which we do. But I let my guests talk as personal as they want. I don't force them into answering any questions that they don't feel comfortable with, and that's what we talk about beforehand. So I'll be like, "Is there anything off topic that you don't want to touch on? Is there anything you don't want me to mention? There's anything?" And you say, "Yeah, I don't. I'd rather you not mention this, or I'd rather you."
Right.
It's done. I will not bring it up. Yeah.
Chat, I feel like I need your help because I would love to know like what my people want to know about me that I haven't
Right.
shared more on.
Yeah.
So like before I do this podcast, like I definitely want to reach out to you guys, and if there's something that you want to know more about me or my
Yeah.
history or where I'm at now or what I'm doing, then
Yeah. And
yeah, let me know so that
right.
that can come
And
up.
generally, I leave that up to you. So whatever your comfort level is talking about the stuff that you want to talk about, if you want to go deep into it, I'm fine with that. But as long as you're okay with it. So I will not ask any intrusive or personal questions, about that. If you say, let's not leave that alone, then we don't go there. So
Yeah,
it's easy. So it's nothing, no stressful. It's just a nice conversation style podcast and it promotes positivity. And, I want to see people achieve what they want to do, whether it's starting a business, whether it's getting, stuff that they're doing out, whether it's, some people are, I just had a buddy of mine, he does pottery and he's like, I'd love to I'm like, let's talk about it. Like, that's what this is about, right? Get your business booming, get ready for those farmer markets, create all your stuff. So he made me a really cool mug. It's an octopus because I like octopus.
Yeah.
And so he made it for me and I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Like, I was like, he's like, well, it cost a lot of money. I'm like, dude, anybody would spend $80 or $90 on this. If it costs you $40 to make it, I would gladly on Etsy pay $75 or $80 for this because I like it.
Yeah, and for sure, because that's time and labor that they're putting
Yeah.
into it, not to mention the skill. It's like
Right.
even things that look like simple because we're so used to cheap, fast fashion.
I get it.
It's
Yeah.
like that's not really the reality of it. That's
Right.
like craftsmanship,
Yeah.
and
And
that is
exactly. And
worth.
you're
That's
1,000%
exactly
right.
what
And
it's
that's
worth.
what I told him. I'm like, dude, people are paying $75 for a steel Stanley mug that was popular in the 80s, right? If people are willing to drop $80 on a Stanley mug, they will be more than happy to drop something personal on a mug you created for them.
Yeah, and you just really have to believe in what you're doing and believe that it's going to get into the right hands. Because if you have people resisting you and like arguing
Right.
with you and
Yeah.
trying to like down cut your prices and stuff like that, those are probably not your clients.
Yeah.
Like
And he
those
doesn't
are
have that, right? He goes to the farmer's market and sells out. I'm like, dude, you are awesome.
he's
Like, you need
killing
to
it.
put,
Yeah.
yeah. And he's a super talented artist, right? So he draws, he does like all kinds of stuff. So, he's very artistic in that way, but he loves pottery and that's kind of his passion. So,
That's beautiful. I love that. Now I know that I picked up rings and I made a pocket. I found them. I don't have a pocket in my skirt, but I made a pocket out of the waistband of my skirt so that I could carry my rings upstairs and not in my hand. Okay.
yeah,
I was reminded that I have to eat, so I'm going to eat.
fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, so cool. Okay, so
Yeah.
let me ask you this.
Yeah. Ask away.
What would be a topic or conversation that you would say has really stood out in your mind as one of your favorites? Like it really was inspiring to you in some way, or it was really meaningful or significant to you in some way?
So obviously the first episode I ever did was with my wife, right? And we talked about growing her business, growing her boutique, the hard work and effort it took. So that's always special to me because it was her and it was my number one, but not the last one I did. The week before I did one with Paranoia Threat, and she is a 988 operator, which is basically like a suicide. And that was awesome to me, right? Because she saved lives on the back end of stuff where it goes unrecognized, right? And I was like, it was so like, she was so passionate about what she does and like how she does it. But it was super inspiring because I didn't know that existed, right?
And a
Like
lot
I
of people
didn't,
can benefit from that because, we all have people in our lives who we care
right.
about who go through hard times. And we don't all have the benefit or the luxury of having had training on how to appropriately navigate
Yeah.
those emotions or hold space for them in a safe way. Sorry, one second. MVPs, Lucifer, Drew. Oh my gosh. My brain is Nick and Sunflower. Everyone, thank you so much. Okay.
So yeah, but so asking like that was the one that really kind of tugged on my heartstring because like it resonated with me, and I didn't know that something like that existed. So she taught me something which was awesome, and she made it into something special for me. And I was just at the end of it, I was like, you do this every night, like you save lives, and you don't get recognized for it. Like how awesome is that, right? Like, so my goal was I put it out. I was like, if you don't know about this, you need to know about this because you don't, everyone has a friend or a family or even yourself that can relate to that. And I was like, what an incredible, like, that was probably the one that really like took me back.
It's fun to me. Like I love the fact that that's the one that you mentioned. Aside from obviously your first show and with your wife being that's just so special all the way around. But I love that because I was just talking to some people over the past few days about how like even though there are all kinds of community support out there, there's so little like ease of access to
Hmm.
it for so many people. And so often we have people who slip through the cracks because they
Right,
just didn't know that something was available to help them, or they didn't know how to access it, or,
right,
there's barriers in place. And some
right.
of those are just like,
And the biggest thing too, right, is the stigma around it, right? The
yes.
negative aspect of it, like I'm not crazy, I don't need help.
And
Where if
there's the fear of if I
right,
text this and I
yeah,
admit how I'm
so
really feeling, is someone
right,
going to come take my kid, to
yeah,
put me in jail, throw me in a hospital, whatever.
absolutely. So it was great because it was like when you dial 911, you know what's going to happen, right? You
Right.
know what's coming. But when
Right.
you dial, 988, you
You,
have a lifeline, right? It's somebody you
right.
could talk to, somebody you get to know, somebody you can, so that it was really touching. That was very special to me.
So I thought the reason why I said that was so cool was because in that conversation I was telling these people about how I am on like basically like a crisis services through a local our community mental
Okay.
health facility, and so I do counseling twice a month, and then I'd see a doctor once a month, and then I also have a case manager who and my counselor and my case manager, they come to my home and
Okay.
actually meet with me in my home to like go over things.
Awesome.
And even with that support, I still I dial that 988 number every single month, at least once a month. I dial that 888 number because at some point I get to a point where the medication isn't working. I don't have the social support. The support things that are in place are very much like, well, this is your job and you're just checking ticks off of
Hmm.
boxes. And it's like, it's hard when you're in those moments where all the businesses are closed and you can't get to that person.
Yeah.
But if you just have that number and you can text that number
Yeah.
and literally just say, I'm feeling like this, and that person holds that space for you and they say, I understand, and it's
Yeah.
like, it
Absolutely.
makes sense. Like your feelings are valid. And that allows you the safety to allow that feeling to come and then to pass.
Yeah.
And then once it passes, then you can move on. So I'm a huge advocate for mental health in
Yeah.
general, awareness and taking personal
Sure.
responsibility, and also being helpful for other people and compassionate toward other people
Yeah.
with those struggles.
I agree. So I actually had two guests on my podcast where we talked about mental health in the fields that they were in. Unfortunately, they were both first responders, so it kind of touched on that subject about it. But then we talked about how to navigate through it, outlets that we have, and things that we can focus on to do that. And those were both really good experiences too, right? Because everybody at some point goes through a dark side, right? They have thoughts, they have things, and it's how you get out of it is the story, right? So once you pull yourself out, you can look back and say, listen, I was there. I know how you feel. Like mine happened with my injury, right? So when I had all my surgeries and I thought that was the end of the road for me, when it was able to come out of it and pull myself out, and I look back, I'm like, man, like what hard times I had, right? Now I had a good support network with me, right? So, I had my mom and my wife and, but if I didn't have that, I don't know how the end result would have been different.
Right.
Like no
Exactly.
one to push me through it. But I
Right.
didn't know I had resources to help me with that. And now I do. So if that ever were to happen again, or somebody else finds themselves in the same position I was, not only can I be of usefulness to explain what happens after, but I can give them that outlet, which I didn't know
Resources. Yeah,
before.
you
So
can
it's
help
awesome.
them. It's like I kind of think of it as like stepping stones, like the saying, like we're all just walking each other home, but like there's
Mhm.
pitfalls all along the way. There's mud puddles, there's all these things that
Yeah.
maybe we need to or want to avoid for whatever reason. And so it's like when you have someone that's gone ahead and they've made a mistake, but they've recovered from it, and that person can then actually turn around and share with the rest of the people, like, hey, try
Mhm.
this instead. You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? I just think that
absolutely.
I feel like that's one of the blessings and honestly like a responsibility that we
Mhm.
have like as human beings in general, because when we're out there, and especially in America, we have such a hyper self-reliance sort of mindset. Like you have to do it all yourself. You
Right.
have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But like really, like we thrive in community support,
Sure.
and we have to take personal accountability for our actions because we can't control what other people are doing, but we still need help in order to process that, because those feelings that come and the physiological and biological reactions that come with them are
Mhm.
normal.
Right.
Whether people say it's normal or not, they're normal, because that
Yeah.
person is just like an animal that has gone through some experience. And then when that gets triggered, that moves to your amygdala. You're not thinking in the logical brain, you're acting out of autopilot.
Mhm.
And that could look like anything depending on what that person has been through. So I think just taking, like you said, that stigma away from saying, like, oh, just crazy people, or oh, just like there's something wrong with them. It's like, no, there's a reason that this behavior is presenting itself. The question is, are we together, the person and their care team, able to take those steps back and kind of like find out where we
Right.
went wrong, and
Sure.
then build a new bridge, right,
Yeah.
to get us over it and get us through it. So,
So you know what's funny?
what?
We just had this conversation in the little bit of time we had. We could have made an episode about just this. This is
Well,
what this is what my podcast is like. What we just did,
so just
is,
clip the live. Just
that
clip
is it,
the
right?
live.
So this is it. So this is exactly what we talk about and stuff, which is a conversation that we have, but we promote the good of what happens, and that's what I want to show. What you do in the community, that's remarkable, right? People should know that about you. And as a podcaster, it's very weird because I will talk to somebody and they'll say, listen, I don't have anything I would talk about, like no one would find me interesting, no one. But I'm like, listen, we all have a story, right?
Yes, we
We've
do.
all lived, whether
Yes.
you're 14 or 94. We all have a story to tell. We've all lived through experiences.
And we can
That's
all
what,
learn from each
right.
other.
So
Yeah.
I say, never say that you don't have anything to share with the world, because you do. So again, we've been talking now for, 10 minutes, and we could easily talk for another 45, and that could be a podcast.
Okay, well,
So this
we'll
is
do
as
it.
easy as it gets. It
We'll
doesn't
make it
get any
happen.
easier than
I
that.
know, like
Right.
I'm definitely down. Like
So awesome.
I'm definitely down. So we could just consider this our chat.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
technically we were only a day off, so we
Right.
did good. All
Yeah.
right, cool. And it's
So
kind of
all
funny
we'll,
that we did it through battles, just
yeah,
like as an extra little
perfect. And all we'll do is pick a date that works for you. All I need is about 50 minutes of your time, and we'll make it happen.
Okay, 50 you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right,
I
good deal.
usually cap it at an hour, so
Yeah,
usually
of
50.
course.
So the first couple minutes are just explaining a little bit about yourself, like I'll introduce you, and then say tell us a little bit about yourself, and you'll do that. So we'll do like a little intro, then we'll have our conversation, whatever we discuss, and then we have a little 5 minute outro where I say tell us where we can find you, any social medias you want to promote, anything you want us to to where we could follow you at, you tell us, and then that's how we end the show, and then I post it, and then I'll like I said, I don't mean this in a bad way, it's not a negative term, but I love to recycle my guests to find out where they're at in a month or 2 months or 3 months
Yes.
based on what we talked about. So,
Because
uh,
that progress is
yeah,
so, that's another level of inspiration because anybody can fake it and make it look good for one day on
right,
camera. But are you still doing this 6 months later?
yeah,
Like, are you still volunteering? Are you still advocating for
right,
people? Are you still helping out like the people, disadvantaged people that
sure,
you say that you are,
yeah.
Like, yeah.
And
So,
so History Buff was a guest on my show. He was going through some anxiety and he had a panic attack. And he's like, "Can I talk about it on your show?" I'm like, "Yes." So we met at a concert. We talked about music. We talked about podcasts. We talked about everything else. But we really got into his, anxiety issue that came about. And so I said, "Listen, can we follow your journey? Can I talk to you next month and then the month after and find out like what you've done and what?" He's like, "Absolutely." So we actually set up a date. We're going to do it May 10th. And we're going to follow up his 1 month and see where he's at now. And then we'll do it again in June and then again in July. And we'll do like a 3 month thing to see his progress because he started new medication. He went to actually talk to somebody, a professional about it. They diagnosed him with having anxiety and the panic attack scared him, right? It really, because he didn't know what it was. He's like, I just kind of froze up. And
it feels like you're having a heart attack,
yeah, and that's what
a
he said.
bad
He's
enough
like,
one. Yeah.
right. He's like, I completely went numb. He's like, I didn't know if I was having a stroke. I didn't know if I was having like, and so he pulled over. He was driving. He sat on the side of the road for like 45 minutes before he kind of got like everything back. He was able to drive home. And after that, the next day he went to the doctor and the doctor said, "We'll run some tests." So they did some neurological testing. They tested his heart. They're like, "You had it and a severe anxiety attack and a panic attack is what you had." And he's like, "Well, what do I do?" And they're like, so they gave him a psychologist. They told him to go talk to that person. They gave him some meds and now he's working it out. He feels bad because of the meds. He's like, the meds are really messing with me. But I'm like, "Can we follow your journey?" He's like, "Yes." So now we're going to follow the journey. So
I love that.
yeah.
And it's funny because when I first started posting here on TikTok, I only got back onto TikTok. I had never really made much comment in the past, I
Okay.
mean, content in the past, but I recently got back on because toward the end of last year, I lost a friend who was in the military. He was a medvac, and so he saved lives all the
Sure.
time, and he unalived. And so that was very traumatic and a huge loss for our community.
Mm-hmm.
And, it very much felt like that, those people that you love and you treasure and that are so precious because he was someone who was, held very safe space
Right.
for you and was very encouraging. Like, obviously, anyone who makes a career out of becoming a like
Sure.
medaled and decorated lifesaver, like they want to help people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was so devastating to know that he had done so much for so many people and that somehow we weren't able to be there for him and to let him know that he was going to be okay. And because of that, I decided to through my grief, thank you so much, Taylor. Through my grief, I decided that I needed, I was like, I felt very much in my spirit that on his way out, it was like he was calling all of us together because it was very much a God thing when we
Mm-hmm.
found out. Because he had posted like about it that he was going to do it on social media. And then he sent also individual things to like certain people to let them know and say whatever he needed to say.
Sure.
But when my friend called me to let me know that about it had happened, thank you, Taylor. Yes, yep, we're making it. We're out here. We're just keeping going every day and sharing that with the world so that they know that they can keep going too. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he my friend called me, one of my girlfriends called me, and when she called me, I just happened to be at the person's house who introduced that friend, our friend and his name is Johnny. His name is Johnny, and he was, awesome. And
Yeah.
actually, his handle on social media for a long time was Johnny McAwesome,
Yeah.
because he was,
Yeah.
and he is, and he still is
Yeah.
awesome. And so it was like I felt so much that it was like, I felt this like pleading in my spirit for us to all hold
Hmm.
tight to each other and to not let each other
Yeah.
slip away, right?
Well,
And
I'll
just
tell
like
you what,
keep checking on each other,
in his memory on my podcast, you mentioned that story, and when I post it, it'll live forever. So it'll never go
Yeah.
anywhere. It'll
And
be,
I mention it everywhere. And I say
yeah.
like because that so where I'm going with this is because of that, I started reaching out more to another friend of mine who is very neurodivergent, like I am. And so she isolates a lot and she goes into her mind and she might find like one app, and that's the only place that
Hmm.
you can find her and get in contact with her. Well, I don't live in my home state anymore. So if I go visit, I just go straight to her house and I go hunt her down until I can find her.
Right.
But then there's all of our friends that we used to hang out all the time before she
Sure.
get hit burnout, and they all still live around there, and none of them talk to her, reach out to her, go to her house, anything. And
Okay.
so I was like, I need to do more because I'm not able to visit home often enough.
Okay.
And she needs more than just one person showing up every once in a while. So I joined her on her app. And then she was
Okay.
like, actually, now I'm going to start doing karaoke. That's her thing. She loves karaoke.
Awesome.
She was like, I'm going to start doing karaoke on TikTok instead. And so I was like, okay, well,
Okay.
I'll join you. And so then that's what we started doing. And then I started making a post and I was like, look, my goal this year is to not unalive myself. So, this is the journey that we're going to take. I'm going through so much grief. I have all of this trauma. I'm living in this situation. And I got on here because I have one friend who understands my soul enough to like inspire me to keep it going and not tap out. And so, we're going to show up and we're going to let people witness that. And it's ugly and it's not cute and it looks crazy sometimes. Like I have no sense because what? But this is my reality. And I know that even though this is my reality, I am still a person that deserves love and to be treated
Sure.
with respect and to
Absolutely.
be able to support my family
Yeah.
and all of these other things. And so it's like one day there's going to be somebody who's going to see my content and they're going to see where I've been and what I've been through compared to where I am now, compared to where I'm going to be 3 to 5 to 10 to 20 to 30 years from now. And they're going to say, if they can come out of that and they can get here, maybe I can too.
Right.
And that doesn't mean they necessarily have to take the exact steps that I do, but I'm going to share every resource and every step that I took so that if one of those is the right move for you, now you have it and you can
Absolutely.
add it to your toolbox. And if it's
See?
not, you can
Yeah.
leave it out. And that's
Right.
fine too. And I'm never
Right.
offended
And
by
you're an
that.
inspiration now, right? So anybody who's watching this now can relate to you on that level. So, we'll use that as a trajectory as to what we're going to do next. So you're going to do great. The podcast will be a breeze for you.
It's great. And I just
Yeah.
had a full blown panic attack on live just the other day. And I specifically allowed the live to continue to go for the entire duration of the panic attack. And I was like, I know this is going to be triggering if somebody, scrolls through or whatever. But I was like, but I feel like I
Mhm.
need to allow this to happen. And also in the moment, I needed to prioritize just taking care of myself.
Yeah,
And that
for sure.
meant not figuring out how to shut my phone off. It was literally just put the phone down. And then now we're going to walk through the steps of how I deal with this.
Okay.
And then I had my chat with me, encouraging me, offering me suggestions. And it's very take it or leave it. It's like I don't have to read the chat if I'm not
Mhm.
able to, but they're there. And it's
Yeah.
like to be able to show people who don't have any concept, say they have a partner who has panic attacks like that, but they've never experienced one. Like maybe seeing someone go through that start to finish and how it comes out of, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that can
Absolutely.
educate them,
Sure.
and seeing my chat and seeing how we interact with each other, that can educate them on how to support their partner or
Absolutely.
how to support themselves in a moment of distress, which may not be a full on panic attack, but you just
Yeah.
might be like, oh, my heart's
Right.
racing a little bit because I'm a little nervous.
Absolutely.
Let
Sure.
me try some of these techniques and see if that helps. So
Yeah.
that's that's me. That's like why I'm trying to be here. In addition to, my goal is ultimately to be able to make all of this like where I can support my family off of this,
Yeah, absolutely.
But I know this is like the mission for me and the
Yeah,
purpose for me, and I love it. I love
right.
it, and it fulfills me. And yeah, I don't know. So
Well, we'll
hopefully,
follow your journey, right? So this is great. So this will be, we'll do a continuation of it, and we'll check in and we'll use my platform to help everybody. Like I said, you're an inspiration to, the community and everybody that, needs help. And again, you've experienced it, so you could help them get through it, right? So how awesome is that you can do that? I mean, that's a great tool, right? That's awesome.
right. And I think things like this are, like how we save TikTok, so to speak. It's like I think things like this are going to be the thing that helps people to be on these platforms and use them for their own good
Yeah,
rather than falling into the trap of just the money grab and the
sure.
addiction and all of
Yeah.
that. Because it's like,
And that's unfortunately a sad reality, right? Because you do find yourself coming on here for those reasons, right? But
and
if
it's,
you could spin
yeah.
it a little bit, right, and help somebody along the way, yes, you're doing it for personal reasons, but if you can inspire somebody along the way, what's the harm in that? That's the way I look at it.
Follow. And I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. It's like if this is something you're going to do anyway, find a way to enjoy it, but also to allow it to be helpful to somebody else,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
just let it's very like it takes me back to like little like Bible school songs, but it's very much like this little light of mine,
Mhm.
I'm gonna let it shine because every
Yeah,
person that you meet has a light shining from
right.
within them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you can share in this because of what you do. It's obvious. How much fun is it to watch to tend that flame in someone? How much fun is it to like
Yeah,
fan
I
that flame a little bit?
I
And
thrive on that, right?
I
Like
know
I
you do.
love
That's why
enthusiasm,
you
right?
do this. That's
So
why you're like, I'm a
yeah,
podcast guy. I'm gonna interview you. What do you
right.
love? Tell me.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I like the enthusiasm, right? And I like people that are positive and have a story to tell. And it's my job as a podcaster to find that, right? So I
Yeah,
found
for
that
sure.
with you in a couple minutes. So like,
Oh yeah,
this
yeah.
is,
Well,
so this is easy, but I mean, like, imagine the amount of people you could help. And then at the end, you could be a lifeline to somebody else because like I said, I'll let you plug everything, but
right,
you never know when somebody might send you a message and say, hey, listen, I'm dealing with something. Can you help
right,
me? They
right,
wouldn't have known that if they hadn't
right,
met through us. So how
right.
awesome is that? So that's what we use, as a
And,
networking tool. But what an experience you've had, and what a great story you have to tell. So I think the world should hear it.
well, I appreciate you, and I think
Absolutely,
we'll make it happen.
for sure.
So we'll pick a day next week, and I'll let you know something on Wednesday for
Yeah, no
sure.
worries. Like I said, we'll figure out a date and
We
time
got
that
time.
works for you.
It's not like a rush
We'll make
thing,
it.
but I'm
No,
just saying
we'll
I'm a
we'll make
person
it
who
work,
likes
and
to
we'll
make a
yeah
tentative plan.
yeah.
That way I
So
don't just
perfect.
say, yeah, we're going to do that and
Yeah,
then never
awesome.
talk to you
No, it's
again.
fine. But if it happens, it happens. Like I said, I've gone,
Sounds
on a
great.
whim as well. So we'll make it work.
Yep. Cool. Okay,
Yeah,
good. Well, I'm really glad that this worked out.
yeah, me
Thanks
too.
for
Yeah,
requesting me because that was like a totally sneaky, slick way of getting in
for
that
sure.
phone call without
Yeah,
actually.
this is what we do. Like this is what my podcast is based off of. What we just did
Right.
for the past 25 minutes is what
We
we
can do
do
this.
when we're live. So it's easy.
Perfect. I love
Yeah,
it.
awesome.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm gonna let you go. Have a
All
great
right.
rest of your
Yeah,
night,
you
and
have a good
we're
night. If
gonna
you ever need anything too, feel free to reach out to me. So
same. I appreciate you. Same.
awesome.
And yeah, I'll definitely send some folks your way for sure. Guys, make sure you check out One Fun Guy
I
podcast.
appreciate that. And
Hop
anybody
over,
who's on or sees this later,
hop
well,
over, give him a
go hit Christina up.
follow.
She's
Like
awesome.
if you want to get to know more about me, this is the guy you're going to
That's
need to
it.
follow
So
because
we'll
I'm going to be going on his podcast and then you'll get to watch our episode and wow, won't that be so much fun for
we'll
us?
make it happen.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, I hope you have a
All right.
great rest of your night and
Awesome.
I'll
You
talk
do
to you
the
next week.
same. All right,
Yeah,
Christina.
thanks.
Take care. All right.
Bye.
Later. So, guys, that's exactly what my podcast is like, right? So, some of you have been a guest on my podcast. I see Roberta was on. She was a guest on my podcast. I'm going to be a guest on her podcast coming up soon. But this is what I do, guys, on my podcast. I try to inspire people. I had Alexa on tonight. She works for Steam and Cuts. She just started a brand new business. She's my barber. And I was like, what an amazing story you have to tell, right? You're a female in a male dominated position. You've navigated yourself through that. You've put yourself through school. You're educated on everything that has to do with the beautician world. I said, you need to come on my podcast and like tell this story to the world. She's like, no, I don't know. I'm like, trust me, it's going to be great. She killed it, right? She did awesome. But that's what my podcast platform is used for. So all my videos will be up on YouTube. You can scroll through them all. I'm still learning, guys. Like, I'm not a pro by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't consider myself to be, right? Like, I don't consider myself to be a, you know, an influencer in any stretch of the imagination or a coach in any stretch of the imagination. But if I could help one person, maybe a couple people, or maybe a million people down the road, that's what my inspiration is, right? To have my guests talk about what they're passionate about and what they want. I have my stuff that I'm passionate about too. But my podcast is the platform to let other people shine. That's what I want to use it as. So in the course of having a conversation and doing what we do, that's what happens. People come alive with stories that they have to tell. Kristina was a perfect example of that, right? We talked a little bit for a couple minutes. She segued into something, and the smile on her face lit up because she was talking about stuff she was passionate about. You know, working as an advocate in the community and helping people through their crises and getting people through those tough times. She's an inspiration, and she doesn't even know it. And that's the thing. Like, how amazing is she to do that and to just say, you know, I'm just here to help. That's awesome, right? Like, that is what is inspiring about being able to do a podcast. And that's what I love about doing it. Inspiring people to be their best, right? And to bring out what makes them happy. You know, she does her art. She does other things which she's great at. But you could tell what she really is inspired to be, right? Because once she started talking about it, the smile lit up. She was really involved in what was going on in the conversation. Excuse me. And that's what my podcast is about. That's what we do. So I always say my podcast will do one of three things. It will either entertain you, it will educate you, or it will empower you. If it does all three, that's fantastic. That's what I aspire to every time I hit the live button, is to entertain, to educate, and empower. That's my goal. And I feel I'm successful at doing that. And again, my podcast doesn't have a niche. It doesn't have a specific thing. I talk about what my guests want to talk about and what makes them happy. So maybe my niche is making people excited about what they're